Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Protecting the Vision, another live webinar hosted by the National Optometric Foundation. My name is Dr. Timothy Brown. I am the treasurer for the National Optometric Foundation, and we continue to do these webinars so that we can have free public education just for you. And tonight we're going to have a great discussion as we are talking about and bringing awareness to diabetes during Diabetic Awareness Month. We're going to have a great guest speaker on with us tonight as she share about diabetes and different things that the public should know when it comes to taking care of your health, taking care of your eye health, and making sure that you are aware about all the things dealing with diabetes. I'm so excited to let you know about the National Optometric Foundation. We are the financial arm for the National Optometric Association, our parent company. We also have a student association called the National Optometric Student Association, NOSA, which we also support them financially. We try to provide scholarships for our students who are preparing for optometry school or they're currently in optometry school. We want them to be at their best. We want them to have that support there so that they can continue their education and become optometrists in the future. And we also appreciate our donors, our sponsors for giving towards the causes that we have as we work with the National Optometric Association. Thank you for providing the funds so that we can continue to give scholarships, we can give back to the community. We can also do free eye exams at each National Optometric Association convention. We are doing free eye exams and they get free glasses if you partner with sponsors such as VSP. They provide the frames and the lenses for our patients that come to the eye exam event each year as we go into different communities. So thank you all for being that support that we need so much each and every year. We appreciate that. We also try to educate communities. This is why we're doing the webinars. We also try to educate our patients about the 3 silent killers of your vision: glaucoma, diabetic retinopathy, and hypertensive retinopathy as well there. Under our Achieve campaign, we're always striving to bring services and education to the public so that we can help you protect your vision, preserve your vision, and know all about your eye health when it comes to those things. I also want to let you know that we do have a website, the National Optometric Foundation.com, and we would like for you to check out our website. We ask you to go ahead and like our website, follow it, subscribe to it. We also have a YouTube channel that we would like for you to subscribe to and follow us on YouTube, because you can go back and look at the previous webinars that we've done over the past 2 years, and you can see that great information that other doctors have provided when they were a guest speaker on the webinar as well. We're also on Facebook. We have a Facebook page that we would like for you to go over and like, the National Optometric Foundation. And on our Facebook page, you will see some great information about upcoming conferences, also about our board members, and also about NOSA. And then you'll also see some of the webinars on our Facebook page as well. And if you would like to give and help us continue to do the great things that we're doing, we do have a Cash App, $ Protecting the Vision. And we appreciate you for giving towards our foundation. Tonight, we're going to talk about diabetes, the eyes, and your overall health. And our guest speaker for tonight will be no other than Dr. Brittany Wright. Originally from the Chicagoland area, she attended Southern Illinois University in Edwardsville, where she obtained her Bachelor of Science degree in Biological Science and Master of Science degree in Cellular and Molecular Biology. Wow, 2 challenging courses. Dr. Wright completed her doctorate of optometry at Southern College of Optometry in Memphis, Tennessee, graduating with honors. Congratulations. A highlight of her time as a student includes serving as national president for the National Optometric Student Association. She then went to complete her residency in ocular disease and low vision rehabilitation at Kansas City VA Medical Center. Dr. Wright has practiced in a variety of settings, including primary care, tertiary Surgical Center, mobile care services at nursing homes, and rehabilitation. And most recently, she's been at the University of Missouri, St. Louis. At the College of Optometry, Dr. Wright serves as a clinical preceptor in the 3rd and 4th year clinics, course coordinator for ophthalmic optics, and director of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Along with these areas, she remains involved in community healthcare with focus on patient access and education. And that's why she's a fabulous speaker for tonight, sharing her wisdom with the listening audience tonight. She's an active member of the American Optometric Association, the AOA, and the National Optometric Association, the NOA, and a new fellow of the American Academy of Optometry. Congratulations, Dr. Wright. We're excited to have her on sharing with you tonight, and we'll give her a warm welcome to the show, Dr. Brittany Wright. Thank you for being on the show. We're so excited to hear from you. Glad to see you tonight. How are you doing?
Thank you so much, Dr. Brown. I am doing well. Hello to everyone out there in our virtual audience. I'm excited to be here with you all and hopefully help share and connect everyone to that important connection between diabetes and the eye. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, we're so glad to have you. And, this month is Diabetes Awareness Month, and a lot of people have been affected by diabetes. A lot of people, they have it and they don't know it, and a lot of people are going to their doctors and they may not find out then. But you know what? We are the gatekeepers to the healthcare system. And sometimes an optometrist may be a person that would tell someone, hey, I think you might want to get your health check with your primary care doctor there based on what I'm seeing, based on your prescription changes there, or based on something that we see in the retina that's going on. So we want people to know that getting your eyes checked on a yearly basis, even if you're not having problems, is very important for you to do. Don't delay, do it today. I always say that because sometimes your optometrist will be the person to help direct you to your primary care doctor for additional testing, and they may diagnose, or they may say, hey, we need to watch some things before they decide on any further action there. So tonight we want to talk about diabetes. We want to talk about what it is. We want people to know that there are different types that you can have, and I'm gonna ask Dr. Wright if she will help me help the audience understand what diabetes is and the different types of diabetes, if you would. Let's start there just for discussion.
Absolutely. So I like to present this in a way that ideally is digestible for everyone. So certainly for those that are listening live, if there are questions, don't hesitate to drop them in the chat so we can make sure everyone has a really good understanding of the information being shared. So with diabetes, think about it as a condition that's going to affect how your body turns the food that you eat into energy. And so, naturally, or in a normal setting, your body is going to break down most of the food that you eat into sugar. The important sugar that we look at as it relates to risk or developing diabetes is glucose. And so, the food that you eat, your body will break that down, turn that into glucose. That glucose gets released into your bloodstream. From there, it, a signal is generally sent to the pancreas to release a protein called insulin. Think of insulin like a key. You need that insulin to allow that glucose to then be absorbed into your cells and actually be used as energy. And so, with any individual that is living with or impacted by diabetes, your body either doesn't make enough insulin or it isn't able to use the insulin that is produced or released by the pancreas. And so, when there isn't enough insulin or your cells stop responding to the insulin that you're making, that blood sugar or glucose can stay in your bloodstream. With that blood glucose buildup or that sugar buildup in the bloodstream, that can then lead to the complications related to diabetes. And that can be any area or organ that receives blood or oxygen in the bloodstream. So we think about complications related to how our heart is functioning in the blood supply to the heart, to the brain, to the eye, to the extremities like your hands and feet, to the liver. And so, all of these, and the kidneys in particular, all of these different organs can be impacted if that glucose is building up and affecting blood flow and oxygen in within your system. And so there are generally three types of diabetes mellitus, which is what we're talking about here. The first being type 1. And so this is thought to be caused by an autoimmune reaction that basically stops your body from making its own insulin. This is going to affect a smaller number of the people impacted by diabetes. So about 5 to 10% of people with diabetes have type 1. And with that is generally diagnosed, it can be diagnosed at any stage, but is often one that we associate being diagnosed a little bit earlier in life, primarily because the symptoms with type 1 diabetes develop very quickly. And so those symptoms develop very quickly, allowing for earlier diagnosis because the body is just not making its own insulin to begin with. With type 2 diabetes, your body is really not using the insulin well that you are producing. And so, in these individuals, their blood sugar levels can't be controlled or regulated at normal levels. So, this is the most common that we see in about 90 to 95% of people with diabetes. And this can develop, or is what develops over many years of life. One thing we are seeing now, and why it is important for us to have these regular checks with your eye doctor, with your primary care doctor, even for the kiddos, is that we are seeing type 2 diabetes show up even earlier in life. So, children, teens, young adults are being impacted a little more often than was historically seen. In type 2 diabetes, symptoms are generally a little rare or less noticeable in the early stages, or there's symptoms that we don't really link to the diabetes or the risk of diabetes. So this can be things like frequent thirst, so just feeling thirsty often or more often than normal, frequent urination, having to use the restroom more frequently than normal. There are certain skin conditions or changes to the skin that can occur early on in diabetes that we may not associate with developing the condition, as well as changes like blurry vision that we may attribute to needing glasses, but could be a more serious impact from a systemic or health condition. And then lastly, I'll mention as well gestational diabetes. So, gestational diabetes is one that develops during pregnancy, which can increase the risk of health issues in children, as well as those children being at greater risk developing type 2 diabetes later in life. And so those are generally, when we think about our more common types of diabetes, are generally the ones that we come across most often. So Dr. Brown, I'll call you back up and see if there's anything else we need to touch on there.
Yes, you did a great job giving us a very thorough review of the type 1, type 2, and gestational diabetes, and letting us know what it is. You nailed it. That's straight what it is there. And so many Americans, so many people, millions of people have been affected by diabetes there. And I was talking with you earlier today. We have a young child, because I heard you mention about children now. We had a young child, and her blood sugar was high. It was extremely higher than the normal range there. So we are having to focus more on youth, and what their blood sugar levels are, and educating parents about that as well. And just we want people to understand that this can lead to blindness. We want people to understand that this can affect life. It could be the difference between life and death, having a stroke. It's nothing, we don't want to scare you. We want to educate you so that we can help protect the vision. We want to help protect people's vision. And so I appreciate you for sharing those different types there. Many times people are not aware of the risk factors, things that can put them at risk for developing diabetes, sometimes their diet and everything. And we want to encourage people to have conversations with your primary care doctor, the same way that we encourage you to have conversations with us as your optometrist there on the eye care side. So can you review some things to let our audience know that could put them at risk for developing diabetes, Dr. Wright?
Absolutely, absolutely. So yes, there are some risk factors that we have control over. So we call those modifiable risk factors. And then there are others that we may not have maybe direct control of, but it's important for us to be aware. So we'll kind of blend those together as we talk about these. But primarily when we think about diabetes, one of the first things that generally comes up is weight or individual weight. And so that is something, while not everyone with type 2 diabetes is overweight, obesity and an inactive lifestyle can generally increase the risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Other things that may be more common or other risk factors will include age, so age over 45. The foods that we eat, again, can certainly have an influence there. And then our genetics. And so we talk about those non-modifiables. We can't control our genetics, but we can control how we engage with the world, how we engage with the world beyond that. So those are generally ones we think about as far as the more common risk factors. With that, I do like to acknowledge things that are out of our control. So you had Dr. Otu on a few months ago, and she talked about that connection to public health and social determinants of health. And I think that is a very important part of this conversation because there are external environmental aspects that can influence someone's ability to just access a healthy lifestyle. So how close is the nearest grocery store with healthy food options? How is transportation? Or one that I didn't really give credit to until I was just educated more about it is just how safe are the sidewalks in your neighborhood? Because when we promote, we say, oh yeah, get out and walk for 30 minutes. What if there aren't any sidewalks or the sidewalks are kind of cracked or uneven? It's not as easy for that person to get out and walk and maintain that active lifestyle that we promote. So there are those social determinants of health or just external risk factors that are based on where we live, work, and play that are a little bit out of our control in a lot of situations. So being aware of those and making sure that our doctors are aware if we're impacted by any of those is really important. And I know medicine is encouraging us now to look at, are there social factors that might be influencing that patient or that individual's health or ability to access a healthy lifestyle to reduce some of these risk factors?
Right. I didn't think about it. That is something that can affect, motivation, people getting out there and actually taking that walk because they don't have the sidewalk, that they don't have that safety, from the road there. So that's a great point that you bring up there as well. So I appreciate that. We want I think people should maybe find an accountability partner as well there too, to someone that maybe you can go and work out with, someone who you can take a walk with as well, someone who will call and check up on you and say, hey, how are things going? Are you staying on track, with your goals and everything like that? I encourage those things, on the business side as well. When I'm talking to some of my business partners, and they're trying to reach a certain goal, I was like, hey, let's be accountability partners, or maybe you need to find an accountability partner. So I think those who are affected, if you're listening to this webinar, we want you to know that maybe, to help you stay on your goal, because sometimes it can be challenging. We'll say these things, but it may be challenging to you, and that's okay. We want to encourage you also to find an accountability partner, someone who can walk alongside with you, check in with each other, and just make sure that you're staying the course as you're trying to either lower your blood sugar, or keep it, consistent there as you're working with your primary care provider for that as well. So very good point that you brought up.
Absolutely.
So,
I would just real quick. Yep, just very quickly to add to that is when we're thinking about our food choices, especially as we come up into these seasons, the end of the year celebrations that go on, is if you're host lady, being mindful of having a little bit of a low sugar option or low carb option, and or just encouraging, your family to have those options if diabetes is something that multiple people in your family are navigating, because we said it's not easy, to make some lifestyle changes, that will help.
Yeah, it's a great time for me to say happy Thanksgiving to everyone
Yeah.
that's watching this webinar. And Dr. Wright, she's right again. Find that moderation. Make those suggestions for those low carb options there when we're having family gatherings. Lay back on some of the ham and find some substitution for that. Incorporate some salad, in your meals as well there. Not so much dressing as well. So not so much dessert. All those temptations can lead you to the point where you're causing your blood sugar levels to be higher than they should be. So thank you for bringing that tip towards our audience as well, Dr. Wright. I appreciate that as well. And I'm thinking about diabetes, and we talk about the 3 silent killers of your vision, and diabetic retinopathy is one of the 3 silent killers of your vision. And just because diabetes can affect the eyes, it affects the back of the eyes, the retina. So can we talk a little bit with the listening audience about how diabetes can affect the eyes as well here during this month of Diabetic Awareness Month?
Yes, absolutely. So I generally think about diabetes affecting the eyes in 2 pathways that kind of overlap at some level. And it is all very directly related to that blood sugar, blood glucose level. And so in the image that you're seeing on the screen, in the top image, we have what we consider a healthy or normal retina. So you have the cornea, the front of the eye, that clear tissue in the front. You have the iris, or the color part of the eye. Through that, or right behind that, sits the lens. And I think about that lens like a lens in a camera helps to focus light in the eye. That's probably one of the first places we can see sort of short-term changes in the vision related to diabetes and blood sugar levels. So that lens, when blood sugar levels go up significantly high, or just higher than your average, that lens runs the risk of swelling. So it absorbs fluid. When that lens changes thickness, it changes how that eye can focus. And so that can lead very directly to blurry vision as a result of the blood sugar level. Fortunately, that can subside, or that swelling can go down as the blood sugar level goes back to normal, or goes back to a better or lower range. That swelling will decrease. And so that's what we call transient, or a change in the vision that fluctuates from time to time. Now, as we move further back in the eye, we have the retina. And so we talk about diabetic retinopathy. And so that is where we get damage to the blood vessels that supply blood and oxygen to the retina, that can lead to those more long-term significant complications as it relates to diabetes. And so retinopathy, or diabetic retinopathy, is where you get breakdown of all of the small blood vessels, the arteries and veins in the back of the eye. And you actually get fluid or protein that can leak out, that can lead to tissue damage. You also get a loss of oxygen. So when the blood isn't flowing, we get loss of oxygen and nutrients to that tissue. And as we know, if tissue does not get the proper amount of oxygen or nutrition, then that tissue can start to die. And that becomes a issue that we can't necessarily reverse, or we can't restore the function of that part of the tissue once it has died or become what we call ischemic, or loss of blood flow. And so that is the more long-term complication that we see with diabetes or diabetic retinopathy. The positive is that when we talk about the importance of getting an eye exam, if those signs are identified early, they can be reversed with management, or can regress or improve with management of the systemic condition. And so that's where, when you're seeing your local optometrist, your local eye doctor, they are able to identify some of those changes and partner with your primary care doctor to help with management of the blood sugar level in order to improve the vision outcomes. There are other treatments beyond just managing the systemic condition as it relates to certain medicines that may be placed in the eye to improve any signs of retinopathy. And there are some, in the more advanced stages, some surgical options that may be considered with your ophthalmologist that would help to preserve vision depending on the level of severity.
Right. Right. Wow. And you bring up a good point about that early intervention. That's why we encourage people to not delay getting an eye exam and get your eyes examined on an annual basis there, because a lot can happen over 365 days all throughout the year. Just like we tell people, a lot can happen when they call us 6 months later for a contact lens follow up. We're pretty much starting back at square one because a lot has changed over 6 months. So don't delay getting your eyes examined by an optometrist. An optometrist can detect some of the things that could be affecting the retina. It can be affecting, as she said, the lens in your eye. And many times we have to tell you, today is not a good day to give you glasses. Because if we give you glasses today, it's not going to be the right prescription for you because of the changes that we're seeing with your eyes, the changes that we know are going on because of your blood sugar levels. So don't be disheartened if your optometrist happened to tell you this one day, because really what they're trying to do is save you money. We can give you a prescription that day, and then you come back in a few weeks later or a few months later, and it's changed again, and you're not able to see out of that same prescription there. So we want you to know that these things happen. They happen to your eyes. She talked to you about the loss of oxygen, tissue damage that can't be reversed. We don't want those things to happen. So this is the purpose of us doing these webinars, protecting the vision, making sure that you are aware, making sure that you have this wisdom that our guest speakers are bringing on so that you won't lose sight because of diabetes. Speaking of losing sight, tell us about losing vision. Those things that you describe, blood going into the retina, seems like this blood is in an area where it should not be, and that could be bad for someone who has that going on. Is that true? Could that cause blindness, diabetes?
Absolutely. So yes, so it is something generally in those early stages, someone may not even have vision changes. When we start to get into those late stages, those vision changes can be permanent in some instances. So when you have that loss of oxygen to the tissue, or if you have swelling or bleeding in the retina, you get fluid that develops in areas where it shouldn't be. And so the cells in the retina can't process light information like they used to. The longer it's there, unfortunately, we're talking about nerve cells, brain tissue. Those things cannot, at least with the technology today, can't be restored or recovered. So the symptoms that patients may experience, or that people with diabetes may experience, may be black spots in their vision. Kind of think of it like pepper specks, or even bigger blind spots that develop across their vision that they just can't see through. Glasses on or off doesn't make a difference. So if you're seeing, or someone with diabetes is seeing spots or blind spots, or I've had some patients say my vision just went red because they had a blood vessel that started to leak into the middle cavity, or what we call the vitreous, and they developed bleeding all the way through that gel tissue. So their vision went red, almost like they were looking through a curtain. And so there can be more long-term lasting effects with vision, where it's almost, very dim or dark. For some people, they describe it like someone turned the lights off in one eye. And unfortunately, when we get to those levels, it is very difficult for the surgeons, and even with systemic management, very difficult to recover some of that vision.
Wow, wow. We do not want the stages, the diabetic retinopathy, to progress to those stages where the blood is filling the vitreous, the jelly-like
Mhm.
substance that's keeping your eye nice and round. We do not want that to be disturbed there. We don't want you to really have diabetes altogether, but if you do,
There you go.
these are some things that can happen, and we want you to be aware of it. We want you to have these conversations with your doctor. We want you to have these conversations with your optometrist, and we want you to be aware of these things so that you can not only help take care of yourself, but you can also tell your family and your friends, because genetics plays a role as
Mhm.
well. Some of the things that we get because it runs in the family. So make sure that if you're not aware of what's going on when it comes to your family history, maybe Thanksgiving dinner would be a great time to bring it up when you guys have had your meal and you're sitting around. You can find out who's in the house. I know everybody may not be interested in having that discussion, but I want to encourage families to do more talking while they're together. It's not that families always come together every week. So at this time of Thanksgiving, when you have some of your family members in the house, maybe you should check in on your brother, check in on your sister, check in on your mom, your grandparents there, and kind of see how things are going when it comes to their health. And then you can also share this webinar. We'll have this webinar on our YouTube channel, National Optometric Foundation, where you can share it with your family and friends, and they too can be educated as we're sharing this information. So thank you, Dr. Wright. So blindness can be the result from diabetes, and that's big. And sometimes, we wonder, can some of these things be reversed? We want to know, hey, what can be done if someone is diagnosed with diabetic eye disease there? How is it going to be treated? With all of this blood in the back of the eye and all of these different changes going on, how can this be managed and treated there? Can you help us out with that?
Yes, absolutely. And so, treatment with diabetic eye disease does depend on the severity, how advanced the disease is when it's caught or identified. And so, the first step is working with your primary care doctor. One, to ensure that the whole body condition is being managed and addressed. When we talk about the eye specifically, depending on what's going on, there are different treatments. So I mentioned before that lens swelling and kind of changing the shape of the lens that can increase the risk of cataracts developing in patients with diabetes. And so if they have a cataract that's impacting their vision, in some instances, cataract surgery becomes the treatment option. For someone who develops retinopathy, there are different treatments that will help to slow down that new blood vessel growth or slow down the release of certain proteins that can cause damage in the eye. And so those medicines are injected into the eye, or there are laser treatments that help to slow down progression of more advanced diabetic retinopathy. And so those are handled under the care and along with your local ophthalmologist or retina specialist that your optometrist has referred you to for management of those conditions.
Right, and it's good that you bring that up because a lot of patients, need to know that we have a network of doctors who come into play when it's dealing with your health there, and we're connected with specialists. If we have to refer you out to someone who specializes in certain areas when it comes to eye health, and we're connected to specialists who focus on nothing but surgery all day. That's what they're doing, and you get on their calendar and they help take care of the complicated things that your optometrist may have detected during your annual eye examination, and they can get you over for management and treatment options there as well there. So that whole network of doctors are there for your care as well. So lean upon us, ask us questions when you come to the office, bring some paper. I always encourage people to bring your medicine with you. Your optometrist, they want to know what medicines you're on as well. They want to know about your health history, your family history as well. It's not just about glasses or getting contacts there. We're concerned about your overall health, especially if you have diabetes, because we know how much diabetes can affect your eyes and it can affect your whole body as well there. So make sure that you are having that communication and make sure that the communication goes both ways, not just your
Mhm.
optometrist or your doctor talking to you, but we also want to hear back from you. You're talking to your doctor or your optometrist as well. So thank you, Dr. Wright there. And when someone is diagnosed with diabetes, um, that can be devastating for them, and they may not have an idea of what can they do to reduce the risk of complications due to diabetes there. So if you can, I would like for us to leave them some nuggets, about how they can reduce the risk of complication with diabetes.
Absolutely. So again, as Dr. Brown mentioned, I think the important factors are staying connected with your care providers. So your eye doctor, with your primary care doctor, if you're seeing an endocrinologist or a specialized provider, then that is certainly going to be important to stay connected with those individuals. If you don't have one, there are certainly resources, and we'll share a couple resources at the end here of places you can go to identify some of those individuals to help you along the way. Also important is to consider, what does your physical activity look like? With that, before you start any sort of fitness or a physical activity program, it's always good to check in with your care providers to make sure that it's safe and something that physically is going to support you in your journey. But getting active, that can be very simple things. If you happen to be at home more often, or if you happen to work in an office, take it a 30-minute walk around the office, or when it's lunchtime, step out. If you get a lunch, a scheduled lunch, I would say, then, use some of that time to get out and do a little bit of physical activity. Simple as walking is certainly something that is feasible. Um, Other physical activities, there are chair exercises. So if you happen to be in a situation where walking or that physical mobility is not an option, they do have chair exercises that you can look up on the internet and that you can use to get just blood flowing and the heart rate up to a safe level to encourage some of that physical activity. Also thinking about the things that we're eating. So we talked a little bit with some of the holiday season coming up. How are we thinking about the foods that we are eating? Things that you might consider, acknowledging that not everyone may live super close to a grocery store that has fresh produce. There are options of even considering just a frozen vegetable over maybe something that has a high salt content, things like canned goods. So, how are you kind of paying attention to what that ingredient list looks like on the different foods that we're eating? Cutting back on some of those high sugar drinks. Probably, I probably should have started with this, but if you are a smoker, that is one of the biggest modifiable risk factors that we can help to reduce risk of complication. And so, if you happen to be, tobacco, nicotine, smoking is certainly encouraged to quit or to identify programs that might help with stopping in that regard. Limiting alcohol consumption, and of course, acknowledging that changing these personal habits is not easy. For some of us, these are things that we have done for decades, and we're asking you when you go to see your doctor to give you a list of things that we're asking you to change in your day-to-day life. So acknowledging that that's not easy. Dr. Brown mentioned it earlier, is don't go at it alone. Have that accountability partner, whether it's someone in your family, a friend. There are support groups that you can connect with locally and virtually that can definitely be a very key part in making some of those personal habit changes in order to be successful against this very difficult task at hand. So we certainly want to encourage you to identify someone, whether it's one person, um, in your network, or branching out and finding someone outside of your network to really help hold you accountable or hold each other accountable to making some of these lifestyle changes for better care management. And I think that's all I have. Anything to add to that, Dr. Brown?
No, you hit it on the you hit the nail on the head again. Bringing back that accountability partner. You don't have to walk this journey alone. We want you to know that we there are resources out there. There are people that you can reach out to in your circle of family and friends to get them to check in on you. Just ask. You'll be surprised how many people will be willing to come alongside with you and see you accomplish the goals that you have set for yourself to be better, to be healthier, to live longer. As you say, and things that we have, our personal habits, it can be hard to break those habits. This can be a very difficult and complicated journey, but we want you to know that you can do it. We want you to know that you don't have to do it alone. We want you to know that your doctors care about you because they know how diabetes can affect your body, how it can affect your eyes. And we want to have that intervention, decrease some of the things that you can and do it in moderation. If you're used to smoking a pack, try to smoke half a pack until you get to the point where you don't have to smoke at all. If you got a addiction to sugary drinks, try to go for every other day and then try to go for a day without it. Look at me. I did it 20 years ago. I stopped drinking sodas, and I'm glad that I did. I don't miss it, and I started that journey not all at once. I decided to go for a day, and then that led to multiple days, and it led to weeks and months, and right on into a year. So you can do it. I don't have diabetes. I'm thankful that I don't, but I have friends, I have family members who have been affected by diabetes, and we have patients who come in and they're affected with diabetes, and we see the things that happen when diabetes is uncontrolled. I've had friends who have lost their vision completely, and some of the things that they used to be able to do and they enjoy doing for themselves, they couldn't do those things the same way. So we want to have this intervention with the webinar so that you will know it's important to check your blood sugar. Now, some of you may not know what you're checking. You come into the office and we ask you all these questions. What is this and what is that? So that's some of the knowledge that we want to leave with you tonight as well. I think Dr. Wright has some information that she can share with you to help you understand more about when we ask you what's an A1C, and what is that? What is that? And what is your blood sugar reading and what's normal, what's out of the normal range there. So we want to share that information with you tonight. So I'll decrease and let her increase.
Awesome. All right. So yes, there are some values that when you come in for your eye exam and you've indicated to your doctor that you have diabetes, there's a couple things we generally will ask. One, of course, is the medications that you're taking. And so Dr. Brown mentioned that already. Either having a list or bringing the medications with you makes it very simple, just so we can help work through things that may increase risk of eye complications. But important values to know is going to be the blood sugar or blood glucose reading. And so for most individuals or for many individuals with diabetes, you have that measured every time you see your doctor or you go to get labs or blood work. But those are also when you do that little finger prick test, or if you have a blood glucose reader monitor that is a part of your care system, you're able to get that blood glucose reading. And so that we think of like a snapshot of what is the current blood sugar at that point when that measurement is taken. When you go to your doctor, they may do what's called a fasting blood glucose. So that means you've not eaten for a period of time, and then they draw your blood and then measure the blood glucose. And so that fasting glucose reading or blood glucose reading is what is used in part to determine diagnosing diabetes. So a reading of 126 for blood glucose on 2 separate visits for that fasting is indicative or is a part of making that diagnosis for diabetes. And again, these are blood tests. Fasting in someone without diabetes is going to be less than 100. Anything between 100 and 125 are considered pre-diabetes. And so those are, again, the fasting blood glucose, which means you haven't eaten for a period and then you take the reading. We also will ask just what is your, if you check your blood sugar every morning, what does that reading look like? And that's generally something you log for your doctor with management as well. The hemoglobin A1C, or your percent. So that is a blood test that really gives us an estimate of what the blood sugar range has been over a period of about 8 to 12 weeks. So that gives us a little bit more information about how much has that blood sugar fluctuated over that sort of 3 to 4 month period. Excuse me, 2 to 3 month period of time. And so this varies a little bit by age, but on average, a what would be considered normal or non diabetic A1C would be right around 6%. And so when you give that information to your doctor, that gives us some information about how has the level of control or the level of blood sugar changes been over time over that window. That also may be an indication, Dr. Brown mentioned, of where your eye doctor may say, let's wait to prescribe your glasses and wait 2 or 3 months, especially if you're either newly diagnosed with type 2 diabetes or type 1 diabetes, or if you are having a medication change where blood sugars have kind of been fluctuating. That A1C is one of those numbers that helps us identify when might be a better time to go ahead and finalize that glasses prescription. And then just very quickly, other things to consider when you're thinking about important numbers, values as it relates to risk and complications with diabetes, blood pressure, because that can contribute to progression of diabetes. There are unfortunately kind of comorbid conditions where someone can have high blood pressure and diabetes, and they can make complication a little more likely. And then your cholesterol levels. So that is also a blood test that will help to indicate if there are other health concerns that might be at bay. So really, two values when you're going to see your eye doctor: current blood sugar, fasting blood sugar, and A1C are going to be two important numbers to maybe even keep track of, keep a little log that will help along the way. All right. Dr. Brown, I think he's coming back in. There we are.
Yeah, excellent information for them so that they will understand blood sugar, those numbers, the normal ranges, outside of that range there, and just trying to keep those things under control, knowing what your A1C numbers are. Write those things down so that you can take note of the changes over time there as well. It's important for you to be aware. It's your health. We're just trying to help you as you're navigating through with this journey of diabetes or pre-diabetes, or maybe not even having diabetes at all and trying not to get to that level where you will be diagnosed with diabetes there. So let this education not only sit here with you, speaking to our listening audience, but share it with your family and friends. We want you to know we have a website. On that website, we have information. We share photos on our website, National Optometric Foundation, so that you can have there. And then this webinar will also be on our YouTube channel so that you can have it and share it with your family and friends and help educate the communities around the globe there, because we don't want anyone to lose their sight. We don't want anyone to walk around having diabetes and not get it checked. Get checked by your primary care doctor, get checked by your optometrist, and do not delay doing any of those things there. We're finding out that people under the age of 20 are now being diagnosed with diabetes more now than ever. So this education is important. A lot of people are walking around with diabetes and they are not aware of those complications that can happen if you go undiagnosed for so long, and then you start having issues with your vision. You start having issues with swelling. All of those things can occur when diabetes is reaching that level where it's going beyond the normal range there. Now, we also want you to know that there are resources out there. There's help. Not only just have an accountability partner, but there are resources if you've been diagnosed with diabetes, if you are having complications with diabetes in the eye, it's affecting your body in a way. there are resources there. And as we're getting ready to end this webinar, I want Dr. Wright just to put some of those resources out there for us so that you will have those to jot down and reach out and get that information, get connected to those resources.
Absolutely. So one thing is generally accessible if you're, either through your phone, web browser, if you're on the computer, internet. If you just Google search diabetes education program near me, these are oftentimes free programs that are held at local venues within your neighborhood that are put on by any healthcare professional or diabetes education professionals. That can just offer, again, that resource, that accountability, access to things you may not know are out there. So diabetes education programs near me. Along with that, there are what are called diabetes education specialists. And for some medical insurances, they actually cover these services with a diabetes education specialist. So I'd encourage you can talk with your primary care doctor or someone on their staff in their office or your endocrinologist to see if that is something that they have a connection to. They just write a referral to diabetes education specialists, and it is covered under some, not all medical insurances. So you can always check with your insurance company if that's a covered service, but that is available, especially if you are needing just some additional support. Diabetes.org, of course, is also a great resource. They include digital and virtual education programs. So if there isn't one in your area, if you've got access to the internet or to the library where they've got internet available, there are certainly options with the diabetes.org website. And then lastly, and I don't think we can say this enough, is just connecting with your local optometrist, your primary care doctor. Use us as resources as well. We are generally community providers. So if it's not something we offer in our office, there's a network, there's a connection to be able to get to help you get the support and the resources you need when you're seeing us for your eye exam. So those are a few that I generally will encourage for patients to check out.
Absolutely. Don't delay. Get an eye exam today. Protecting the vision. The webinars are here to help protect the vision so that we're providing free education to the public. Doctors are volunteering their time and their wisdom, sharing with you to educate you so that we can help protect the vision. So get connected to those things. Diabetes.org. There's diabetes medical specialist that's out there as well, and also the programs that's near you as well for diabetes there. So great resources that's out there, and most of all, connect with us, your local optometrist there, and allow us to help guide you with your journey as a diabetic. With your journey, even if you don't have diabetes, we want to see you into the office there. Don't say, oh, my vision is perfect, I don't need to go in. There are certain things that can be detected that you may not have symptoms for when you have your annual eye exam. So we want to see you. Most of you have insurances. And speaking of insurance, these past 2 months have been really tight trying to get you all in for your eye exams at the last minute because you're trying to use your benefits, because if you don't use them, you lose them. So I will tell you, at Insight Family Eye Care, we have squeeze and squeeze. We're done squeezing. We don't have it. I'm sorry. We need to get you in. We'll do our best. We'll probably open up some more days, but be sure that your insurance that you pay for all throughout the year will sometimes allow you to come in and see your local optometrist for your routine eye exam so that you can get your eyes examined. That's a great opportunity for you. You got the benefit there, so use it, please. And we want to see you. We love seeing you. We are community specialists. We like to get out in the community. We do things for the community. So be a part of our office and come in and let us help take care of your eye health there. Dr. Wright, you have been a great guest speaker for us tonight. Phenomenal, sharing all of this information. It has been valuable. You've given the audience a lot of golden nuggets. Now, someone listening to this webinar may say, I like Dr. Wright. I want to be able to go see Dr. Wright, or I want to follow her. If you have information that you want to share with our listening audience, or some closing words of advice, please do so at this time here. And I appreciate you for being on this platform.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you, you, Dr. Brown, to Dr. Whitehead, the NOF president, the NOF board, the NOA board. There's always just a very deep connection with the NOA and the NOF as they've supported and been a part of my journey in this profession. So I do thank you all for the work that you're doing, because these are awesome resources for the community. But yes, you can find me on Instagram. It's Insight with Dr. Wright. So INSEYEGHT with WITH Dr. Wright. So you can find me there. I'm happy to connect and share resources however I can with the community. And thank you all for attending.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Doc. Continue to do the great things that you're doing for your patients, for the students that you are touching there, making an impact, positive impact upon the lives of others on a daily basis there. Enjoy your time off and celebrate Thanksgiving with your family. Happy Thanksgiving to you all. We appreciate you for sharing, and I hope that you'll continue to have a great evening. And then I hope that Thanksgiving is a very blessed day for you and your family as well. Again, thank you so much for being our awesome, phenomenal speaker tonight, sharing with us about diabetes, your eyes, and your overall health there. It was great. I enjoyed it. And I'm very sure that our listening audience have gotten some great things from you sharing your wisdom tonight. Thank you again.
Awesome. Thank you.
And as I close out the show, folks, I just want to thank you for tuning in for another episode of Protecting the Vision, sponsored by the National Optometric Foundation, the financial arm for the National Optometric Association. We have a website, nationaloptometricfoundation.com. If you'll go and check out our webpage, we'll be glad to have up there information where you can learn more about us, meet the board members, look at some of the photos that we have posted from activities that we've done throughout the year, along with the NOA at their convention, where we're doing the free eye exams with sponsors such as VSP, giving the communities free eyeglasses with their prescription in it. We also have a Facebook page, National Optometric Foundation on Facebook. We ask you to go and like our page there. We will have the webinars posted on there when we're having them on a monthly basis. Every third Monday of each month, we have a webinar, different speakers sharing wisdom with our audience. We also have a YouTube channel where you can follow us on YouTube. Previous webinars that we've done, they will be on our YouTube channel, and you can share those with your family and friends. And if you would like to help us continue to do the great things that we're doing for our community, as so many have, we have a Cash App, $ Protecting the Vision. I am the treasurer for the National Optometric Foundation. It has been my pleasure to bring you another episode of Protecting the Vision. Much thanks and recognition to our great leader, President Dr. Andre Whitehead, and also he's the president of the National Optometric Foundation, along with Dr. Barnes, our current NOA president, and our NOSA family as well there. We all thank you for tuning in, and we also hope that you and your family will have a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday, and we look forward to seeing you on our next webinar in December. That'll be December the 18th on a Monday at 7 p.m. Have a great evening, everyone.